I know this is of great interest to all of you. I just want to let you know we're still working this hour by hour. I do not have an update for you on the hostage deal that we're trying to negotiate. But as you heard the Deputy National Security Advisor say yesterday, we believe we're closer than we've ever been. So we're hopeful. But there's still work to be done, and nothing is done until it's all done. So we're going to keep working on this. We're also working to increase the flow of life-saving humanitarian assistance, food, water, medicine. We're calling for respecting the international law in terms of minimizing the loss of innocent lives. And of course, we're continuing to advocate for humanitarian pauses so that people can get out of harm's way and that aid and assistance can get in.
Let's stay with us and speak now to SABC News correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease, who is joining us now. Sherwin, it's increasingly looking that we might have a deal that is close to being announced. What additional signals are you tracking, and which way might a deal go, and how does it look like in its nature? Because we're seeing a lot of reports suggesting different things, but what are you hearing?
Bongiwe, the timing around this deal should not be lost on any of us. We're 2 days out from the beginning of the Thanksgiving long weekend here in the United States. So this deal could really feed into the Thanksgiving narrative, not just in the United States, but certainly around the world. This is what we are hearing. President Biden, a short time ago at the White House, during a different meeting, a meeting on a different subject, talking about how we are now very, very close. We could bring some of the hostages home very soon, but I don't want to get into the details of things because nothing is done until it's done. And if we have more to say, we will, but things are looking good at the moment. Then a statement out of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office earlier today saying, quoting the Prime Minister, "We are making progress." I don't think it's worth saying too much, not even this moment, but I hope there will be good news soon. So echoing the statement out of the White House echoing the statement out of the Prime Minister's office, and of course Hamas leadership affirming that narrative. We do understand that Netanyahu has convened his war cabinet today, and we understand that the Israeli government, the cabinet, has to sign off on any agreement that the Qataris are facilitating. We understand there is a possibility that we could see the release of some 50 hostages, women and children in the main, in exchange for a 4 to 5 day pause, Bongiwe, in fighting, and the release in exchange for those hostages, for each hostage, the release of 3 Palestinian prisoners. So if you do the math, 50 hostages means you can get 150 Palestinian prisoners released in exchange for those 50. During the pause, we understand Hamas will reportedly gather up additional women and children. They argue that they cannot do that, identify the hostages in their different locations while the hostilities continue. So that cessation of hostilities, that 3 to 4, 5 day pause, is critical in that regard. And during the pause, we understand Israel would stop flying surveillance drones over northern Gaza for at least 6 hours a day. And spare a moment here. 240 some hostages were taken, many of those women and children. Spare a thought for the families that are waiting for some news on the well-being of those hostages, well-being of their family members and loved ones. And this really does give them a glimmer of hope. In addition to the many hundreds of thousands of Palestinians stuck in that besieged Gaza enclave that has been wrought with bombardments for the last 40 plus days. This pause could not come soon enough. Just listen to what Dr. Mike Ryan, the executive director of the World Health Organization's Emergencies Program, said to journalists here at the United Nations yesterday. Watch.
Beyond the risks of direct wounds and injuries, which are very severe, we're seeing large numbers of people packed into refuges, packed into UNRWA schools, packed into various other kinds of centres. This is creating a concentration of people which is driving epidemic risks, and the rains over the last 24 hours have really added to that. There really has been heavy rain. It has flooded a lot of the makeshift camps, and it is generating all kinds of risks. And it's not just the risks of diarrheal disease. The sudden drop in temperature is going to create a problem with pneumonia in children, the stress that those kids are under, the nutritional status that those children have, make it a recipe for epidemics. This is an absolute recipe for large-scale epidemics amongst this population, and that, as a public health risk, right now will begin to approach the same level as the injury crisis that we have and the crisis in the hospitals.
A catastrophic situation on the ground, echoed there by Dr. Mike Ryan. Not anything we didn't know, Bongiwe, so this deal, if it happens, couldn't come soon enough. And of course, all eyes focused on Doha, Qatar. We expect the Qataris to make this announcement if it doesn't come from the White House or the Israeli cabinet before then.
And Sherwin, a BRICS communique issued after the extraordinary leaders meeting earlier today on the humanitarian situation in Gaza, calling for an immediate, durable and sustained humanitarian truce leading to a cessation of hostilities. Could this deal then lead to something more durable, or is there an expectation that if possibly they were to agree to a pause, they would then build on that truce, or do we simply go back to fighting after 3, 4 or 5 days?
I guess the short answer is that hope reigns supreme in that regard. It's a great question, right? I mean, would this pause, 3, 4, 5 day pause, lead to something more sustainable, more durable, a longer cessation of hostilities? Certainly, it is the first ask of the United Nations. They want a durable, sustainable ceasefire. The need on the ground is not going to be met by a 3, 4, 5 day pause and then have a return to bombardments that then exacerbates the situation all over again. It then becomes a circular situation. So does this 3-day, 4-day pause, the exchange of prisoners and hostages, provide us with some goodwill between the two parties? Do they provide us with some stepping stones, some building blocks for something larger? That would be the hope here. And as you see emanating out of the BRICS, as you see emanating out of China with the meeting with Arab ministers that have met with Wang Yi, the chief diplomat of China, a lot of diplomatic pressure building in different parts of the world for a longer, more durable ceasefire here. Does this foster a great enough goodwill if this deal happens for that to happen? That's certainly the big ask and hope around the world, Bongiwe.